Welcome to a world where nothing is quite as it seems. Welcome to Fake Britain. In this series, I'm going to be investigating the world of the criminals who make their money at your expense. And I'm going to be showing you how not to get ripped off. On today's programme, fake clothing is a multi-million-pound industry in the UK, but the counterfeiters don't give up their stock easily, as the police and trading standards in Manchester find out.
Get out of the floor now! Get out!
We test the fake energy-saving plugs targeting the elderly that could cost them a lot more than their cash.
It's just going to burn. This product could kill somebody.
And take a look inside the so-called clinic of the fake dental technician. You wouldn't want to put anything made here in your mouth, but the fakers' victims didn't know the risks they were taking.
You could take bacteria that was growing in one patient's mouth and transfer it to another patient. In Manchester, shopping is big business, but fake clothing is also popular here. The Strangeways district of the city is notorious for selling counterfeit brands. Big names like Adidas, Nike and UGG have all fallen victim to the fakers. But the authorities are about to launch a crackdown in the area, and we followed one team as they launch an operation against counterfeit stores. In Strangeways, a major raid is about to get underway. It's a bit early for hitting the shops, but not for Sergeant Darren Thomason and his team. They're on their way to a store known to be openly selling fake clothes.
Today we're doing an operation in conjunction with trading standards. I'm pretty certain that we'll find a number of different copied items, i.e. Adidas jackets, Nike jackets, Nike tracksuits.
But it's not just about fake fashion, it's about serious organised crime.
It's the dynamics behind the actual selling of the goods. Where is the money going on to? It's been proven that it relates to all different sort of spheres of criminality, from drugs through to guns, through to stolen vehicles, and money laundering of that cash as well.
Daytime crackdowns on fakers are all about the element of surprise. Uniformed police officers would stick out like a sore thumb, and if they blow their cover, they'll come away with nothing.
A couple of undercover officers go in, confirm what they believe counterfeit goods are being sold. We basically get round there as quick as possible to assist our colleagues there.
All of a sudden, the undercover officers call in. They're inside the shop and it's time for their backup to spring into action.
Where are they? Are they in here?
Yeah, they're in there.
Inside the store, the shop assistants are resisting arrest.
Get out of the floor now! Get on the floor, put your hands on your back now! Do as you're told! Do as you're told!
Just secure them! Secure them! Hands behind your back. Now.
On your side! Stay there! Stay there!
Have you been assaulted at all by these? You sure you're
These
all right?
three suspects clearly need some lessons in customer service.
Got a big lad back here because he's the one who seemed most aggressive towards me.
In what respect, mate? What?
Just he's
Confrontational to you? Right, okay.
Coming up to me towards the door, and that's when we had to take him to the floor because he started struggling.
A fourth suspect has made a run for it up the back stairs, but he wasn't quick enough.
Don't move a muscle, lad, all right? You listening to me?
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Move down there. Hands behind your back now.
No.
No, behind your back.
Time to tell these men why their shop is full of police officers rather than customers.
We suspect you're selling counterfeit goods, okay? All right. In the process of us getting into this address, a couple of my police officers have been assaulted. Okay?
Because of the struggle, Darren isn't taking any chances.
I don't want any trading standards officers coming in here yet. It's still quite a hostile environment. I want to find out as to what these characters have been up to.
With the area secured and the suspects finally behaving themselves, trading standards arrive on the scene. Kay Roberts from Cheshire East Trading Standards is looking for hard evidence of cash that links these men to selling fake goods, and she thinks she's hit the jackpot after a search of the men's pockets.
There's approximately £3,000 here. Well, I would suggest the average person doesn't walk around with £3,000 in the pocket. It's a lot of money to be carrying it legitimately.
Counterfeiting makes criminals millions of pounds a year. The fraudsters don't pay tax on their cash-rich business, and there is evidence to suggest that the money funds serious organised crime and even terrorism. So trading standards are hitting the fakers right where it hurts, in the wallet.
The purpose of seizing the cash is to act as a deterrent as well. The reason that these traders do this is for the financial gain, the financial element, and we're obviously interested in taking any profit out of crime.
Today, crime didn't pay. The men are let out and driven off. The officers can now take a closer look at the clothes on offer in this store, and at first glance, it's more fake Britannia than cool Britannia.
As you can see here, Dolce & Gabbana, not my cup of tea. It's got all the relevant markings on it, badged, boxed. They even stick the label made in Italy. That'll be made in Blackpool, it should be.
But these fake trainers are just the tip of the iceberg.
Gee whiz, look at that.
Later, we come face to face with the sheer volume of counterfeit clothing you can cram into just one high street shop. Like many pensioners, Lucia East from Brecon worries about spiralling energy bills. But she thought her prayers had been answered when she received a phone call, apparently from her local energy company, South Wales Electricity, known as Swalec.
I had a phone call late one afternoon, and a very charming lady said that she was from Swalec, and they had a special offer for older people in the area. She was offering me a gadget which would save 40% on my energy bills. I thought £99 was a lot of money, and she said, oh, but it is for life, and think how much it'll save you.
The charmer on the phone already had a lot of personal information about Lucia and seemed legitimate. So she gave them her bank account details to get the energy-saving plug. But then Lucia started to get suspicious.
And when I put the phone down, I began to think, now that was a bit strange. So I phoned Swalec and asked if they had phoned me, and they said no, nothing to do with them. They didn't know anything about it.
Lucia had been speaking to a faker. The call had come not from her energy supplier, but from a company trading under the name Power Savers Limited. They were the ones who'd taken the money from her account. 200 miles away in London, Bethan Featherby at Westminster Trading Standards had heard from other pensioners across the country who had received similar phone calls. Bethan phoned Lucia and told her not to plug in the energy-saving plug when it arrived, but to send it straight to her.
We've had over 200 complaints from consumers, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg. You were supposed to plug it into the mains, switch it on and leave it running 24/7, and that will reduce your energy bills by 40%. A massive saving. Clearly people would be interested if such a product did exist.
But does it work? When Bethan finally got her hands on one of the so-called energy-saving plugs, she wasn't impressed.
When you receive the device, just a pile of old plastic, when you open it up, you realise then there's nothing in there that gives you any confidence that it could deliver that kind of savings whatsoever. It's a pile of rubbish, really.
Bethan had the plugs tested for their energy-saving capabilities. The results were conclusive. The energy-saving plug that Lucia East had paid £99 for didn't save energy. It was a fake.
I felt totally cheated. I also felt incredibly stupid that I'd been taken in.
Later on, we put the fake energy-saving plugs to the test and see how they could cost you a lot more than £99. They could cost you your life. High-tech dentistry using the latest techniques. That's how the man who worked amongst all this described his work. But he wasn't qualified to treat patients. He was faking it. This is the man who took thousands of pounds from elderly and vulnerable people who needed new teeth. Keith Harrington suffers from a serious medical condition, and when his top denture broke, he needed a new upper set of teeth as soon as possible.
Well, my husband's got MS, and he has problems swallowing and choking difficulties.
What they needed was somebody qualified to visit them at home to fit Keith a new set of dentures. Sylvia thought she'd found the perfect solution.
So I looked in the Yellow Pages and found someone from the denture clinic in Dawlish who would come to the house. And when he came, he was charming, comfortable to be with, a caring sort of person.
Yeah, very.
We thought.
The charmer was a man called Stephen Sicklemore, owner of the denture clinic, promising new dentures within 4 days and repairs within 2 hours. Sicklemore promptly came to the Harringtons' home to fit Keith for a new set of top dentures.
Well, then he told me the price, £1,060, and I thought, oh, that's a bit steep.
In the end, the bill came to a whopping £1,540 for Keith's new dentures and some other work. Sicklemore left with a cheque, promising to be in touch soon. But all he delivered within the 4 days promised by his advert was the Harringtons' money into his own bank account.
He kept saying, yes, he was coming the following week. Oh, I'll definitely be down. I've got problems with the car. I hit a pothole. And it was just, every couple of days I was ringing him.
Excuse after excuse, wasn't
it? It was just excuse after excuse.
A full 3 months later, after many phone calls from the Harringtons, Sicklemore finally turned up with a new upper denture. But that was when Keith's problems really began.
Talk to people and your teeth fall out, or you're talking to people, it affects your speech. So you can't really, converse with people. It is frustrating.
Keith's new teeth just wouldn't stay in. But he wasn't just losing his self-esteem to these dodgy dentures, they were cutting into his gums.
The last infection that he had, he couldn't walk from here to that chair. It was that bad.
But it's not just the Harringtons. Sicklemore has in fact taken money from hundreds of other trusting people, many of them vulnerable pensioners. Laura Hempstead was one of them. She lives in the remote village of Boscastle on the North Cornish coast. When her front denture broke, she too needed a home visit for a new set. She also phoned Mr. Sicklemore, who measured her for new teeth, took her money and then disappeared. After 4 months of excuses, Laura finally got the dentures she'd paid over £700 for, but the new teeth didn't look quite right.
I don't know what I expected with £720, but I didn't expect something like this. The finishing is poor, almost looks as if they've been cobbled together by a novice.
And the dentures didn't feel good either.
It's not fitting around the side here. You just want to keep pushing it up all the time. And it feels like when you're at the dentist and you've got a gag in your mouth or you've got something to stop your mouth closing. And that's what it feels like.
By now, the fake denture maker was gaining quite a reputation. A bad reputation, that is. Peter Green from Devon Trading Standards had been inundated with similar complaints from other pensioners about the poor standard of Mr. Sicklemore's work.
This was a large-scale crime. It took place over 2.5 years. It targeted, we estimate, at least 160 people, and it made in the region of over £200,000.
Peter's Trading Standards team carried out a full investigation and decided it was time to raid the so-called denture clinic where Sicklemore was working. The team were horrified by what they saw.
The facilities, to be quite frank with you, looked fairly appalling. There was a small cooker with what looked like an old saucepan on it with some kind of industrial product in it which was being used for the manufacture of the dentures. It was effectively a laundry room in someone's house, and it should never have been described as a dental clinic.
This laundry room lab was less than sterile.
We found and photographed a bin which was full of casts. Those casts were supposed to be one use only, and yet the suspicion that we have is that in fact they were being reused.
We showed Laura Hempstead and Sylvia Harrington photographs of the makeshift laboratory where their dentures had been made.
It's disgusting.
I feel sick. It is absolutely filthy.
Well, there's certainly nothing sterile in that environment.
When I think of my husband's immune system, and to look at that thinking he's put something in his mouth that's been in there. Ugh. It's disgusting.
Later, we see the true dangers of the shoddy dentures.
Certainly an opportunity here for cross-infection going on, hepatitis, that could be anything.
And amazingly, we catch up with the faker himself.
You're going to get some discount. You can buy a pair of shoes from Clark's, precision fitting shoes. You walk down the road, you might get a blister.
Greater Manchester Police have joined forces with Trading Standards to crack down on counterfeit clothes in the city's Strangeways area, known as the counterfeit capital of the North. They raided a shop suspected of openly selling counterfeit clothes to anyone who walks in off the high street.
It's obviously blatant. This is on the main road into Manchester, blatantly selling counterfeit items, as you can see in a window and people passing by.
The officers meticulously bag and tag each and every counterfeit item. All of a sudden, Darren finds something remarkable upstairs.
Gee whiz, look at that. Wherever you look, Adidas. It's going to take best part of 3-4 hours to clear this.
And there are boxes here full of tracksuit wear, and as you can see, there's quite a significant amount just stacked up here.
Now, with thousands of fake items to go through, the officers think they found everything this shop has to offer. But they've missed something that was right under their noses.
Just have a look in there. Basically, what's upstairs, similar amount of quantity of goods.
Janet decides to take a closer look at the subterranean Aladdin's Cave.
Again, another huge area of storage that you might not have known was here because of the trapdoor upstairs wasn't particularly visible when we first came in. Not only have they got fake goods on the ground floor and the room upstairs, in the cellar as well, they're using it as an area of storage for counterfeit goods. And you can see, found some more Ugg boots down here.
Bag after bag of fake goods goes in on the back of a lorry. Nearly 4,000 items of counterfeit merchandise. Almost £250,000 worth of gear. Of the two men arrested, one pleaded guilty and is awaiting sentence, and the other is due for trial. It is a resounding success for the team. We've already seen how fake energy-saving plugs were being sold to unsuspecting members of the public across the country for a whopping £99. Tests prove that they don't save you hundreds off your electricity bill, but that's not the most frightening thing about them. Fake Britain decided to test the safety of the plugs with Ray Jefferies at Intertech Testing Labs. First, he wants to see if the plug actually fits into a UK plug socket safely.
What should happen is that the pins should be poking through these holes, and it's not. This is why we're concerned that if you plug it into the electricity supply, it may not make proper contact. It could overheat the pins to a point where they could catch the product on fire, or even the socket could catch on fire.
The short pins are the first sign that this plug is a fire risk. But to make sure, Ray needs to carry out two crucial safety tests. The first test mimics an electrical short circuit to see how the plug might react. With the wires stripped and soldered and the plug firmly in, it's time to flick the switch. A regular plug should be able to cope with a short and shut down.
Whoa! Well, we heard the bang. And let's see what's happened.
It doesn't look good.
It was such a bang, it's actually knocked out the main breaker downstairs. The air inside the product has actually become conductive to a point where it's expanded very quickly, and exploded and blown the product open.
And the plug is now dangerous to handle.
If somebody tried to get that out of the socket after this had happened, they could touch the live parts inside here and get an electric shock. This product is possible. It could kill somebody.
The plug has failed the electrical test dramatically. There's still the flammability safety test to do. The plastic on a normal and safety-compliant plug is made in such a way that it would extinguish any flames on it in 30 seconds. But what will the fake plug do? Things are hotting up to 850 degrees centigrade. Minutes later, has the plastic stopped burning? No, it's a mini fireball. That's another test failed.
It's just going to burn. Probably set the rest of your house on fire, depending on where it's been plugged in. I know you can see from the results of those flames, it's not going to extinguish itself.
It's another breathtaking safety failure for the plug as it continues to burn past the 9-minute mark.
Would you pay £99 for a fire risk? You know, and that's what it is, a fire risk. So we now have an explosion hazard and a fire risk. You come back and find your house on fire or burnt down. It could happen.
And it did happen. Fire investigator Stuart Mortimore came face to face with the potentially lethal shortcomings of these bogus plugs. He thinks the instruction manual alone is a cause for concern.
When using, please be careful when plugging into the sockets. Don't be too rude. So now we know.
But Stuart knows the plugs themselves are no laughing matter. He investigated the case of a woman who bought and used one of these fake energy-saving plugs. Leaving the device plugged in day and night, she went away on holiday. Returning home, she found the plug had caught fire and ruined her house.
Because the smoke permeated through the entire floor, it had rendered the property uninhabitable. And it resulted in much of the contents of the property being effectively laid waste.
The damage was so severe that the victim had to move out for 6 weeks.
There was severe charring at the socket itself. There was nothing else in the vicinity of that socket other than the energy-saving box, and therefore it was evident to me that the only potential source of ignition was either the box or the socket itself.
Stuart needed to check whether the fire had been caused by the plug socket or the energy-saving plug. So he took away the remains of the socket for analysis.
What happened in the house is that we had a failure in a component within the unit, and then this set fire to the device, which could then drip and set fire to items on the floor beneath. And that is almost certainly what happened in the property that I visited.
The homeowner was lucky to have been away when the fire broke out.
What we have here is a device which potentially could cost them their lives.
Earlier, we saw how pensioners in the southwest had spent hundreds and even thousands of pounds on dentures made by a faker. Keith Harrington's dentures didn't fit and cut his mouth. Laura Hempstead's set looked like a child had made them. We showed Keith and Laura's dodgy dentures to David Smith, a reputable dental technician and an expert witness in the court case against Stephen Sicklemore.
Good dentures, eh?
Beautiful.
David knows quality when he sees it, and when he doesn't. First up, Keith Harrington's dentures.
This denture has many things wrong with it. It has foreign bodies that are actually inside the material. They could be bits of dirt from his laboratory. This is a very, very unsatisfactory set of dentures, and as far as I'm concerned, this would not have left my laboratory. I think anybody who paid over £1,000 for something as poor as this has been ripped off.
Keith Harrington has multiple sclerosis, and these dentures could cause him serious medical problems.
For a patient like Keith, this must have been really painful and could have caused ulceration and certainly infection inside his gums. This is quite a serious condition for him to have.
Next up, Laura Hempstead's dentures, and a grim discovery.
This material has started to absorb moisture inside from the patient's mouth, and that moisture obviously contains bacteria from the mouth naturally, but because it stays in there and can't get out, then that attracts a fungal infection that then starts to grow on the fitting surface of the denture.
The dentures should never have been made like that. It could have caused serious illness.
This type of fungal infection, if left on the denture long term, can lead to blood disorders for the patient. It's a very serious situation and needs to be addressed as soon as possible.
David is shocked by the conditions he's seen in the Sycamore House of Horrors dental studio.
There was used impression materials, certainly an opportunity here for cross-infection going on, where different patients' materials were being mixed together. And there was a chance that you could take bacteria that was growing in one patient's mouth and transfer it to another patient. And that could be hepatitis, that could be anything.
Dentures are highly sophisticated medical devices. Making them requires sterile working conditions and specialised equipment.
Well, this is a case really of fake dentistry, and any type of fake dentistry is serious for us because it's very important for us that patients have the protection of being treated and by being supplied by people who are properly regulated to work within this profession.
As Judgment Day arrived for Mr Sycamore at Exeter Crown Court, Peter Green from Devon Trading Standards was also present to give evidence for the prosecution. Sycamore admitted illegally supplying dentures that were poorly fitted and poorly made, and delays in dealing with complaints. He was sentenced to 9 months in prison, suspended for 2 years, and 180 hours of community work. We caught up with Mr Sycamore as he left court.
That's the end of me in the trade. I've had a commercial laboratory years ago, huge, you know, with apprentices under me. And now I'm in court for what I've been doing for so many years. I've worked in a top laboratory in St Helier, London. I've done work for Bristol Dental Hospital in the past. You know, I've even done work for Indian royal family years ago. So I'm not a charlatan, I'm not an idiot, but as the court said, I've done wrong. I should have been registered with the GDC.
Sycamore was totally unqualified to be treating patients. For Peter Green and Devon Trading Standards, it's a good result.
Mr Sycamore will never again be able to carry on work in that particular industry.
While Sycamore's career fitting and making dentures is over, the financial and emotional nightmare continues for Keith and Sylvia Harrington. Having run out of money, Keith has no choice but to continue using his ill-fitting and potentially dangerous dentures. It will take them months to save up enough money to replace them.
He's left us with financial, emotional, physical, medical problems. You name it, it's caused all that to us.
That's all from Fake Britain today. Bye for now.